Previously in this series, I made a video showing how to split up a model for 3D printing when the model is too big to fit in one print volume. Since that time, ZBrush has added new features that make this process much easier. The skills learned in that other video are still valid and have their place, but in this video, I'll show you how to use the new Boolean functions to make the process simpler. So we've got a gargoyle here. First thing I want to do is verify the size of it just to make sure we're working with the correct scale. So I'm going to make sure I've got it selected here in Subtools, and let's come down to Geometry and Size, and here we can see that it is about 6.6 inches tall and about 4.8 wide and 4 deep. Now let's say the printer we're going to print on has a volume of 5 by 5 by 5 inches. Of course, every printer is different, but just for the sake of argument, let's say it's 5 cubed just to keep it really simple. So let's go up to Subtool, and you might want to create your own box or click on this box here, and let's check the size of this just to be certain. Yep, 5 by 5 by 5. So the way I like to use this is by overlaying the two and seeing how much of the gargoyle fits in one box. So what we can do is turn on transparent mode. Actually, I'm going to switch to the gargoyle to make it easier to see and make sure I've got visibility turned on for that box. So what I want to do is move this gargoyle so that it fits neatly within one box, or at least I don't want it splitting off into more parts than I have to. So I can clearly see that it's definitely not going to fit in one. So the split is going to have to happen somewhere in the middle of the body here. Let's see from the front view. Okay, everywhere else looks good. I'm just going to have to split it into two pieces. So what I'll probably do is identify where that split should happen. So I'm going to put it right about here, just to keep it nice and neat. Try to keep those arms as one solid piece with the rest of the body. And let's make sure that if we have this bottom half that it'll all fit. Okay, clearly we've got a lot of room to play with there, so that's good. Okay, let's go ahead and go back into draw mode. We don't need that gizmo anymore. And we can hide the box. And what I'm going to do is create a new object. So let's append a plane. And let's select that to make sure that's active. And something else I want to do is make it visible from the back side just to make it easier to see in case I'm seeing the wrong side of it. Let's go to Display Properties and turn on Double so we can see it from both sides. And what I want to do is get this plane so it's slicing through the model at exactly where I want the cut to be. So let's move, rotate, and scale this. Let's get the gizmo. We'll move this. And I'm going to look at it from a side view here, and it's going to kind of disappear. We can't really see it when it's perfectly edge on, but we'll just know it's in the right place. I'll hold down spacebar so we can snap to perfect 90-degree angle. And let's see how this looks. Okay, I'm going to need to scale it up a little bit. Move it into place. Move it up just a little bit more so I have enough room here in the connection at the armpit so that the arm is really nice and solid with the body. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, in order to run the Boolean, what I need to do is give the plane some thickness, but I don't want to give it too much thickness, otherwise there'll be an obvious seam when the two parts of the model are put back together again. So let's go into draw mode. And there's lots of different ways to give it thickness. Let's use the Z Modeler brush for this. I'm going to hit Shift F to turn on wireframe. And just zooming in really close, I'm going to get the Z Modeler brush. So it's BZM. And with this brush, what we can do is hover over a polygon. I'm going to hold down the space bar so we go into extrude mode. And we want to extrude all polygons. Okay, let's go ahead and just click and drag on a polygon, and we can extrude it any thickness we want, but I'm going to make it just extremely thin, just barely anything. Shift F to turn off wireframe, and you can see we've got a paper thin cut. Okay, let's turn off transparent mode. Let's come up to our subtools and make this a subtraction object. We can also turn on live Boolean, and let's also make the gargoyle a start group, so that the subtraction happens from this point. And we'll zoom in really close, and you can see there is a very slight cut right there. Probably not going to be too noticeable. Once the model is assembled again, that seam will pretty much disappear. Okay, now let's actually do the cutting. So we'll go down to Boolean under the subtool palette, and we'll turn on Make Boolean Mesh. And it just takes a few seconds to compute that. Let's look up in our tool palette, and we'll find another tool has been created called U-Mesh Gargoyle. All right, so let's click on this, and you can see now it's one mesh with that cut. So what I'm going to do is split this into two separate subtools. So under the subtool, let's come to Split, and Split to Parts. And this is okay. All right, now you can see if I turn on solo mode, let's look at one at a time. It has cut that. I'm going to turn on wireframe with Shift F, and you can see how that cut happened. And the other side looks great. All right, let's turn off solo mode, see everything together. Finally, let's get this exported for 3D printing. So I'll go to Z Plugin, 3D Print Hub. We've been working in inches, so I'll change this to inches, and let's update the size ratios. Okay, this looks good at about 3 inches. Obviously, this is just half of the model, so it's not the full 6 inches of height. Let's go back to Z Plugin, and I think we're ready to export this to STL. And from here, you could just give it a name and export it, but I'm going to just go ahead and skip this step. Now, the thing that's really great about this method is that if we realize that the cut's in the wrong place, or maybe we need to adjust something about it, we can always go back to this original project here and just move this plane. So I'm going to turn off Live Boolean so we can see that plane more clearly. And simply adjust that, and then turn on Live Boolean, and go to Boolean and run that Boolean mesh operation again. And it's just as simple as that.